Hi, I'm Mario Guerra. I'm the two-time former mayor of the great city of Downey. And I'm here today with my co-host on there, Eric Pierce, the editor of the Downey Patriot. And we're here talking Downey with Mario.
And Eric.
Well, welcome back to our show. We wanted to do a recap today of this week's election, and especially how it impacted the city of Downey, or how it can or it will. So, Eric, you and I always vote, and you and I think it's important. But you know what? Let's talk about the election.
Yeah, and first of all, so Mario, one of the reasons that I like you is because you, like me, you get so excited on the election day. You're one of the few people who just gets pumped up for it, and I do too. It's there's an energy, even for the primaries, which is it's not a general election, but it's exciting. Oh, yeah. It's a fun time.
It is, and you know what? I think part of it. I mean, I've never missed an election voting since I was 18 when I first registered 40 some odd years ago. It's just, I don't know. So I feel extra patriotic. I feel extra optimistic on election day. I went to and I like doing it in person, right? So my wife and I went and vote, and then I make sure that all my kids know. I'm texting them throughout the couple of days. Don't forget, hey, there's a voting place and so forth. But it's just, coming from a communist country, coming here as a refugee, I don't understand. There was a 14% voter turnout this week. I don't understand. And we could say, oh, the politicians won't do anything. Oh, it won't change anything. But you got to come to the table. What the heck are you talking about? Why do you think people don't vote?
For different reasons. But I think for the most part, there's distrust in government. There's distrust in our politicians, in our representatives. And I think many people feel like, what's the point? Yeah. People don't have our best interests at heart. Right. They're running for their own personal agendas. And so I think a lot of people just don't trust the process anymore.
Yeah. And it's sad. It's so sad. It's just the great democracy and the great democratic experiment that we are of this country of 246 years, So anyways, I love it. Thank you for noticing. I know you do too.
I do too. But that said, I'm happy that it's over.
Yeah.
Because I was inundated with text messages, junk mail. I don't think I've ever received so many mailers from the candidates. There's just so much. It was too much. You couldn't escape it. I'm happy that it's over.
Yeah. Especially, it's interesting is because those are, especially we're in the LA area, the TV ads.
Yeah.
And then I think the cable ones are a little bit cheaper. So all the different hit pieces and all the different, the pros, the ones on the regular television channels, that's super expensive. Yeah. And, they repeat the same things. Some of them are pretty creative, but then it's hard to believe. You got to do your own research,
Absolutely.
People need to look up their own things.
So what we're going to do is we're going to run down some of the elections and talk briefly about them. We're also going to talk about the Downey City Council upcoming elections and how these primaries affect the Downey City Council on a local level. We're going to start with the State Assembly. The newly drawn 64th district, and just in case you don't know, the top two finishers from Tuesday advance to the general election in November. So if you're running for a candidate, you want to finish this in the top two. It doesn't matter what order you want to finish. The top two, you advance to November. So for Assembly, the top two were Raul Ortiz Jr. and our own Downey Mayor Blanca Pacheco.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, and it was good to have the candidates here came on board this show, and we thank Ms. Ortiz, Ms. Pacheco, Elizabeth Anticar from the mayor of Cudahy, and Rob Concio, Dr. Rob Concio. So those candidates all came and they got their views across and were having their discussion. I saw that several of them shared their shows, so that was kind of fun. There are two of them that didn't, Miss Valencia or Rosa Espinoza, for timing or whatever other reasons. You know what? It's always a surprise and not a surprise. I think that Mayor Pacheco had Downey is 25% of the district, it's the biggest district. She was taking a lot of hit pieces on some of her votes, especially, Catherine Alvarez for mayor pro tem and so forth from the local people.
Right.
And there was a couple other things, but she seemed to have, I think she had the mailers of the independent expenditure seemed to be the beverage industry, I think the charter schools, which is a little surprising, but I guess, Miss Valencia would have the teachers and so forth. So it didn't really surprise me. She seems to be the more moderate of all the Democrats. Looking at, I know Miss Antakar, she said herself how much, that
She's more of a progressive.
more progressive, and her views were, again, universal health care and a lot of the big picture costly things on there. And then Mr. Ortiz had us here, seemed like a law and order, a lot of, pretty conservative issues and different things and stuff. So it didn't really surprise me,
Right.
So.
Yeah, so Raul Ortiz, he was the only Republican in the race. And so, which is, I think, explains why he finished in first place. He got 34% of the vote. If I'm being honest, he doesn't have a chance in November. I mean, this race was basically determined Tuesday, unless Blanca Pacheco does something extremely crazy. This is her race to win. I mean, I don't think Raul Ortiz has much of a chance. I mean,
Well,
I'm not criticizing him.
Sure, of course. That's the the normal conventional wisdom on there. But even the votes, if you can see, I mean, he received 7,850 votes. She got 5,800 votes. So he got a couple of thousand more. And yes, when you put some of the other numbers together, so he's going to have to reach across the aisle.
Right.
One of the cities that he's strong in that I think Ms. Pacheco is not is La Mirada. And again, Downey, if he makes some inroads in Downey and some of the other cities. So the old historical part, but yes, I mean, obviously it would favor her because just the numbers, the D's versus the R's and stuff. But stranger things have happened. I don't put everything past anybody, and especially these timing, we saw some big surprises in elections on Tuesday. So typical conventional wisdom would say that she's probably the favorite.
We're also going to see more vetting, I think, between the two of them as far as their Blanca's voting record. We're going to get more scrutiny over Raul Ortiz's more conservative leanings and his beliefs, and so we're going to get more information about both of them.
Right.
I think
right.
in a couple of months.
And we'll be glad to share some of that on here, some of their positions, and we'll have them back in the fall too, just to see how they've progressed as candidates and see what their views on there now that it's more specific on there too, the two. But one of the two of them is going to be our new assembling person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and I can't remember the last time Downey had a assembly person from Downey.
Right.
I don't.
I don't think we've ever had one,
No.
especially from Downey.
No.
I mean, when I ran for the state Senate seat, that was going to be the first time too for the state Senate, and we've never had one from an assembly person. That going back
Interesting.
to and now the districts changed a little bit too, but yeah, that would be good for us too.
Yeah, speaking more on Blanca, it's going to be interesting because she's obviously the Downey mayor right now, but she didn't have unanimous support from Downey. And part of the reason is because of the way that she voted, and also because of the turmoil happening in Downey. And we've talked about it before. So it'll be interesting if she's able to recapture that Downey support that she had lost, or what her plan is. I'm just kind of curious to see what she does.
Yeah, just the leadership on there. So that'll be on display, and I think people can make their decisions on it. Yeah, and Downey folks are. We want somebody to take leadership and fix things at City Hall right now because we're still spiraling, even though, I mean, we saw some of the things on the budget recently that, really? So thank God Gilbert Levis is still there for a couple more weeks, our city manager.
Should we move on?
Yes, sir.
State Senate.
State Senate.
Top two finishers, the incumbent, Bob Archuleta. Second place, Mitch Clemens. So they're going to be advancing to the November runoff.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, some people that were doing a lot of hit pieces on Senator Archuleta, I think that Henry Beauchamp I don't know about pronouncing
Bouchot.
it. Bouchot used to be a council member in Whittier, and he came in dead last. And I know that Martha Camacho Rodriguez didn't really do a lot of stuff, didn't spend a lot of money, and she came in third, 8,700 votes. Some of the hit pieces on Senator Gillette were pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I received some on there, and I don't normally would get some of those. They were tying him into former disgraced Senator Calderon and former disgraced Senator Mendoza. And I know there's a lawsuit there going on with him against from a staffer and a sexual harassment thing on there. But they were going pretty adamant and trying to make sure on there. So I'm not surprised. I think Bob's been out in the district. I think Bob is a raw kind of guy. And I've always thought he's always running for election.
Yeah.
The 2 weeks after he wins, I'm Bob Archuleta, your state senator. 6 months after, I'm Bob Archuleta, your state senator. So he's real passionate on there, and you kind of giggle, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I just always think that he's at the energy level even higher than me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
He you're right. He's a very likable person, whether you agree with his politics or not. He comes across very likable.
Yeah.
He's a very, I don't want to say stereotypical politician, but in a way he is. He's always in campaign mode.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. It's difficult to unseat an incumbent.
Right.
So I'm not surprised that he advanced.
And the one thing I will tell you, if you look at the voting record on it, and that's what most people don't. They and he's got a couple things. Obviously, he's a veteran, so I'm real happy with some of the things that he's done and continue to, and I've helped on some of those things. But I remember when he first got elected. Do you remember what his first bill that he proposed? Yeah, it was
the roadkill.
The roadkill. So you work really hard, you become a state senator, and the first bill that you propose out, it was to allow roadkill to be eaten. And I didn't know that was an issue, but it's still laughable to me. I mean, here I am talking about it 4 years later. It's still laughable to me. It'd be embarrassing. Yeah. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of other issues in our state that need fixing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of them, but maybe that's number 29 out of 1,000 on the list.
To be your first.
So I always laugh at that. I don't know much about Mitch Clemens. Do you?
I don't. So he's a Republican. He owns a plumbing company in Whittier.
Right.
That's about all that I know about him. I've never met him. I couldn't. If he was walking down the street, I wouldn't recognize him. I don't know him.
Right. So, okay. So that's not, a conventional wisdom says that this is not going to change.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So, from a city of Downey standpoint, you can look at that in the campaign in the fall.
I just want to mention really quick. You mentioned Henry Bouchot, city of Whittier. I'm a little familiar with Whittier. He resigned his city council seat. I'm sorry, he chose not to run for re-election so he can focus on his campaign, and he came in last. And he spent a lot of money on it. It just that was a surprise for me to see how poorly he did. Right. That was kind of a surprise to me. Right.
Well, and I mean, I think that's a lesson to all politicians and so forth. Sometimes, when we were in office, we get big heads, because, somebody said that they like you, and then, but you got to carry that forward. And the hard part about running for office, I admire anybody that puts themselves out there. I mean, I did it, and I can tell you how hard it was for those 2 years running for Senate. Raising money, getting out there every single day, working towards getting that message out. So it's hard. So I admire them, and I mean, that, and it's just a really difficult route. Absolutely. So my hat's off to them for that. So, okay, so let's go to the Congress. We're the new 42nd district now.
Yeah. So this person is going to. They're going to replace two people basically.
Correct.
They're replacing Lucille Roybal-Aller, who's been Downey's representative for I don't know how
30 years or so.
Yeah, something like that, and also Alan Lowenthal from Long Beach, who's retiring, and this is because Downey or the state lost a congressional seat.
Right. So the state of California grew less than the rest of the country. So for the first time in our history, since 1850, the state of California is literally losing a congressional seat. when some states like I think it was Florida picked up 5, I think Texas picked up 6, and some other states had grew more than California. We've been losing a lot of people to leaving. So, the redistricting process that it happens every 10 years because of the census. So, but it's just kind of weird how this district was gerrymandered. I'll say it out loud. It goes from Long Beach to Downey, but it curves and it comes down. If you see the district, it's kind of funky.
Yeah, it goes through where Huntington Park, I think.
Yeah, all the way there, but it goes through I think Norwalk and some parts of Lakewood. But it just kind of it gets really. It takes all of Long Beach. It gets really skinny, and then it gets to Downey, and so forth. So we've had, and I tell you, I mean, you know, I'm a moderator, right center. Everybody knows that. And both Congressman Lucille Weibel and Alan Lowenthal are more, you know, left center on there. But I want to say this on the record. They're both very good people. I've had the opportunity to know them both. I call them both friends, and I think they consider me a friend. So from an ethics, I don't agree with their views and their voting record on certain things, but they're good people. So I'm going to miss, Alan Lowenthal was our state senator when Downey had the water crisis. We worked really closely together. He's a very, very good man. So I'm disappointed in both of them. I mean, we're looking forward to, you know, maybe a different voting records and stuff like that. We're not going to get it. But, you know, yeah, I want to say that about the two of them. They were both, you know, they weren't forced to retire. They could have ran for other seats. I think based on the combination of things, losing their natural district, and it was just time for them.
It was time.
It was just time. So we'll miss them both, and I want to say that on the record. I think they did a great job.
And it was interesting having, you know, Lucille Weibel, a Downey resident serving in Congress. Not many cities get to say that. So you knew that she was advocating for us.
And she represented us well. And then, you know, her deputies and her whole staff. We used to have Kim Tachiki was her deputy representing us here in Downey, and she would be at everything. I knew that I kind of saw the writing on the wall when she took another position last year, because she had been with the congresswoman for many, many, many years. So I'm like, okay, something's happening. And of course, you know, with the writing, professional politicians know the writing of things. So.
And what's interesting too is the way that the congressional district is right now. Downey is the largest population in that district, in that congressional district. But now it's not going to be.
It's not going to be. We're going to be second fiddle to Long Beach.
To Long Beach, which kind of brings it back to who's running in this election. Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia finished first, really commanding. He collected more than almost 21,000 votes. Second place, Republican John Briscoe, who I'm not really familiar with him. I've had some interactions with him on Twitter. That's about it. I never met him before.
He's run for this congressional seat before. This district and part of the one in Long Beach, Senator Lowenthal, Congressman Lowenthal's seat, it included like parts of going into Orange County, a little bit more conservative, so that was gerrymandered out and for this district on there. So he's run for office before, so he has a record on there, but I don't think that was the surprise, huh? The big surprise, right? What do you think? Cristina Garcia.
Cristina Garcia, the current assembly member, she finished third. She didn't do well at all. I mean, it's not a criticism, it's facts.
Well, the votes as of right now, and these votes that we're doing, and by the way, every Friday for the next 30 days, the LA County Registrar's Office will put out the new vote tallies, and they keep going up because it's the vote by mail ones, the one that would postmark, and just tallying them up. So it'll keep changing. It won't change the results in our opinion, but there'll be a new one coming out in the next couple of days, and so forth, and then they have to certify the election at the end of 30 days. But right now, Mayor Robert Garcia has 20,776. And then John Briscoe has 13,000 until 328. So 7,000 vote different. The biggest surprise was that Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia, 20,000, 13,000, and she got 5,800. So everybody thought, oh wow, it's going to be a Garcia race and so forth. And of course you do have the Republican, the one Republican on there. But it was surprising that she was so far away on third, and then all the other people.
So for Robert Garcia, this is the best case scenario because now he's facing Robert Garcia is a Democrat, and now he'll be facing a Republican in November.
Right.
It's a lock for him.
Well, his name ID in the city of Long Beach, obviously he's mayor, and his name ID is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's trying to make an effort. He's been out here. He's met with you and I, and he's met with other people of both parties here in Downey on there. So it seems the path is there for him.
Right.
You know, conventional way. The one thing I liked about him when he talked to us, and he said about other people running in this race, he wasn't specific, but we know what he was talking about. He says that when he goes to Congress, he promises to be, you know, to be able to talk through the issues. He wants to get things done. Yes, he's got his political leanings and so forth, but he's not going to be a person standing on the desk and shouting and banging the desk and so forth. He is going to be talking about how we can work across the aisle and get some things done.
Right.
And he kind of has done that in Long Beach, and I've seen him in action on there, so I tend to believe him. That's the way the direction on there. We'll get an opportunity to talk to him and Mr. Briscoe if they want to come on our show later on too.
Robert Garcia to me comes across as very reasonable, common sense. Like you said, even if you don't agree with his politics, he comes across as a very reasonable person who you can talk to. He's not one of these crazy people who's too far left, too far right. He's more of a regular person, which I think was what we need right now.
Eric, the one thing that we were talking about, and I don't want to mention any names because I don't want to embarrass anybody that's watching on this, but it's interesting. So there's, besides those three, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other candidates running. And even the last place person got 1,027 votes without doing something, a member of the Green Party and all these people. There's a Downey resident there that's a very nice person and so forth, but they get, you know, over 1,000 people, you know, somebody that's run, you know, 5 times in a row, this Mr. Matthews there came in 4th place with 1,700 votes. So I don't know who's voting for these people.
I don't know, you know. But like you say, I admire their passion.
Absolutely.
And they're willing to run.
Absolutely. They got ideas and they want to share it and so forth.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Okay, so those are the ones that impact us directly in the city of Downey. So, okay, let's talk about some of the other interesting things on there that don't really impact us but are kind of, you know, to talk about.
Sure.
LA Mayor. The city of LA mayor on there, Rick Caruso against Karen Bass. What are your thoughts?
Well, that was expected. Yeah. We kind of knew they were going to finish in the top 2. Yeah. So now you know, we don't vote. We don't vote in that. Obviously, we don't vote in that election, but it does affect us, and we see what's happening in Los Angeles, and you know, you have your own opinions. I have my opinions. I feel like it's going to be a very ugly race between now and November. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know. Right. But it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, they're both experienced and they both seem to be passionate about. You know what's interesting is that I knew before this that they were friends. That Rick Caruso and Karen Bass have been friends, political friends. Right. Yeah, I don't know if he's donated to her campaigns in the past, but to people. So yes, it'll be interesting. We can lay off the TV ads for a while, and you know, you can go back. What are your thoughts about somebody like Mr. Caruso that has a lot of money and buying a lot of airtime to get his name ID and so forth? What are your thoughts on that?
So I generally don't support billionaires running for public office. You know, that as a general principle, I just don't. I just don't. But I'm going to say this. No matter who you support, I think we can all agree that we need change in Los Angeles. Right. Like driving through, you know, when I go to Dodger Stadium, you see these homeless encampments, and it's not okay. Like the way that the city is right now, it's not okay. Right. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think what we're doing right now isn't working. Right. And I think if we're pretending that it's working, or if we pretend that we could just throw enough money at it that it's going to fix it, it's not going to fix it. Yeah. I don't know what the answer is, but we need different solutions.
And I agree. I mean, you know, and that's the problem sometimes with elections. So we, and I'm talking about we, the voters of California, we generally have big hearts. So a couple of years ago, LA County wanted to put that extra tax measure. Okay, so to help the homeless, to go to the homeless. So of course we say, yes, we need to fix this problem. Let's do this, right? So what happens? Barely any housing has been done.
It's kind of worse.
Or they're $800,000 a unit when you and I, without any building experience, can get it done for 150, 200,000. So who's made the money on it? The consultants. Okay, and yet we passed that. We're paying the tax. It's been years. The same thing with the water issues. Okay, so we passed propositions several years ago to do things to capture better water, to look at dissemination and the whole thing. Nothing's been done, and now we're in a water crisis again. So I'm just saying is we need to hold our politicians accountable. Right on your point, and we need change. I don't know what that is either.
Yeah.
It seems to, from my standpoint, I don't begrudge Mr. Caruso because his point was, and he's got a record to run, so he was advertising, this is what I've done, and this is who I am. Yes, he's able to do that, he's got the money to be able to do that personally on there, which, okay, I don't begrudge somebody that's made money the good old-fashioned way. I know his father, was successful, but he's taking it to a different level, so I don't have an issue with that. But it's just get the message. I want to believe you, so tell me what's different, like you said. From either both of you, tell me how you're going to do it different.
Right.
I tend to lean on his part because it's been different versus a current politician, and Karen Bass seems like a good person. Just how are you going to do it differently? Tell us both. Who's
Right.
going to do what? So,
And we were talking earlier about why people don't vote, and I think this is a great example. I'm not confident that either one of them is going to be able to fix the homeless issue.
Right.
I don't see it for
Right.
different reasons. It feels like this is just a way of life now,
Yeah.
And I don't think voters are excited about either of them or confident in either of them fixing the problem.
that's why I'd rather take my shot on a non-politician because he's going to be held accountable. His legacy is always going to be, what did you really do when you promised, even though you made billions of dollars?
I mean, I would agree, but the last time we voted in a non-politician,
Well,
there.
Well, we had Mayor Reardon, kind of the same thing on there, and he did do some good things on there and kind of self-funded, took the dollar. I know you're talking about Governor Schwarzenegger. And
I was talking about him.
Well, and I think on there, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Trump.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, you're talking
So we don't want to
different-
get. We don't.
No,
wanna
no,
get
no, but we're talking different things. I'm just
Right.
saying is, California here,
yeah.
and so forth,
Yeah.
But anyways. Okay, so we've talked about that. Okay, now, one of the other races that everybody's watching, it doesn't impact us directly, but it always impacts us because one of the big issues that we have, we're blessed in the city of Downey, we have the Downey Police Department, but we have a lot of mutual aid with the Sheriff's Department because every single city touching Downey is a Sheriff's Department, right? Because they're not independent cities
Right.
like we are in that standpoint. The Sheriff's race. So what are your thoughts on the Sheriff's race? How it ended up, and maybe mention who the people are.
So Alex Villanueva was the incumbent, and he did finish. He's going to be advancing. He'll be facing former Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna. It's interesting. I was reading different analysis of the race, and some people felt that the current sheriff had a good showing. Other people said that he didn't. I don't know how to interpret it.
Right.
I don't know how it's going to go in November. I'm thinking he has the advantage to be reelected. I don't know. I wish he had a better. I'm personally not a fan of his style. He doesn't play nice with the board of supervisors. I feel that for different reasons. I'm just not a fan of his personally. But as far as how the election is going to go, I don't know. If I had to bet, I would say he'll be reelected, but I don't know.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, I understand why people, why he upsets people. And I was upset when he got elected. I was, a big fan of Sheriff Jim McDonald, yeah, a classy man, good person. So, and it's almost like he almost won it at the primary, okay? And it was like 49-25. I mean, it was just that a little bit more he would have won, it would have been sheriff. So I think everybody was looking for a change, at least from a crime standpoint, and he came in on a very progressive, thoughts and things on there. He wasn't going to let immigration into come into the jails to get people to deport him, and all these different things. when he got in, and again, I'm reading the analysis too, when he got in, he kind of shifted to the middle and then even further to the right. He's got a couple, not scandals aren't the right word maybe, but you know, things that people have thrown at him. I think if you would have said 4 months ago, it would have been a shoe-in. I think that, you know, the name recognition on all the other ones put together, and I think, you know, Chief Robert Luna came in and it was is a normal, you know, sensitive thing. I think the fights with the county supervisors, I think I had an impact. Some of it I like, though, you know. He came to our gangs at a Downey lunch, and I happened to sit at the head table with him. So the one thing I mentioned to him, I go, listen, I'm not sure I agree with you going into Venice and having the sheriff take care of the homeless and clearing that for there. But part of me says, you know, somebody had to do it, and LA City Police Department and LA council members weren't doing it. So it's kind of unconventional, his style, but part of you is like, okay, we really got that done. So I don't know.
But I don't know how much it got cleaned up. I don't know how much of that is because of the sheriff's department. I don't know. I do know I wouldn't want him coming to Downey. I wouldn't want him coming to Downey. And I think a lot of him going to Venice was for show. I think him strolling in there with his cowboy hat and you know and photographers, I think it was a publicity stunt. 100% it was.
If you ask the business owners in Venice, they might give you a different answer.
Of course they will.
You cleaned out, and they have their homeless team that came in and found housing for a lot of them. I mean, it was every single day was there. They're defecating, they're burning fires.
Of course.
So if you live 10 feet from that, you were happy he did that.
But why was he there personally?
Oh, that was, of course you went.
For the cameras.
But why wouldn't you? I mean, seriously, if you're making a big deal out of this, and Eric, if you go back there now, it's had 5% of what it was 5 months ago when he did it. So there might be a couple homeless people, but again, I'm only looking at it, if I live there, I want some action. Action wasn't happening. I'm not saying he was right to do it. I'm just saying if the end result was favorable.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. It depends on how you look at it.
Sure.
It just I don't know. It's going to be an interesting race. Also, you know, now that we have two candidates, how the supervisors, I'm sure, are going to support Robert Luna.
Sure.
A lot of money is going to come his way. It's going to be very interesting.
It will. It'll be an interesting race that will impact us and so forth. But I think the biggest takeaway for me out of this election was, number one is the 14%. Okay, the low voter turnout. I understand there was nothing sexy at the top of the ticket. You know, Governor Newsom on there, he pretty much, you know, everybody kind of knew after the recall that his numbers on there were going to be fine. The Attorney General and so forth. But Eric, my part is exactly what you mentioned before. Why? Why are we keep doing this? Why do we keep voting the same way? Eric, crime down there is terrible right now. We're scared to go out there. That's a big issue, and all the polling tells you people are afraid to go out of their homes and people are afraid to go out there. Crime, inflation, okay? When the average family, the cost of things on there, and just for them to be able to, and lastly, the gas prices. So, and this is something you can't tell me that our politicians in Sacramento can't do anything about it, because they've been talking about it for 3 months. And you have the governor that wants to give back $400 to every car owner. And then you have the politicians that think, oh, it should be more or less or whatever. And only for this, you don't want to give it to somebody, I don't know why, you know, if I make more than $5, why I shouldn't get my money back, the same as everybody else that owns a car. But they can't even agree, and they're the same part. That, for me, is my frustration. Do something. Why are you bickering? When there's other bills that they have passed, they've done it in 3 days. Okay, here you got the governor. So my frustration, and I think that's why we had a 14% total turnout. Do something. No, and why are we? But why are we voting the same way? We're not voting for change. We're just like, okay, you know, we're just going to vote party line.
Right. No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you know, you talked about taxes. I'll just say this really quick: is I don't want a gas tax rebate. I just want lower taxes. Lower
Yeah.
the taxes. I mean, we have such a surplus. What's our surplus in?
98 billion.
$98
98
billion.
billion. Yeah.
We're being overtaxed. I mean, it's not even
Well,
debatable. We're being
And
overtaxed.
that's it. It's what I'm saying is when everybody says, "Oh, we got all this extra," it's not extra money. It's money that you overtax.
That's
You're
our
up for
money.
it.
That's our money.
And Eric, the one thing about is, and we have the candidates in here for the assembly district, and it was interesting how they view it. So number one is, what are you going to do with the $98 billion? Well, number one, lower our taxes so you don't have $98 billion.
Right.
And even the nonpartisan legislative review up there says we're going to be in trouble in a couple of years because we're going to spend this $98 billion on things that are going to go ongoing, and our economy in California, because we tax so much at the top, that if it's a down year, we're not going to have that. But the thing that gets me is, in the view, the gasoline tax that impacts every single resident in the state of California, and more so on those that are lower income because it's a higher percentage of their
Yeah.
income. So can you suspend it for 3-6 months?
Yeah.
Can you help a little bit? You know, you're talking a normal SUV of a family on there that has to take all their kids, and 20 gallons of gas on there, and if you lower it 50 cents, which the state can do,
Yeah.
you're lowering a nice little chunk of change every
Right.
single week that you can do that on there. So help the families out. Stop bickering. Stop
Right.
arguing. So that's my pet peeve.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
It's common sense.
But they don't seem to have any. Do something. You're in power. Do something. No more roadkill bills on there. I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
on
no,
there.
no, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. So, okay, let's wrap up with Downey, City of Downey City Council. We have some local impacts. So Blanca Pacheco, Assembly, assuming she gets elected in November, she's going to have to resign her seat.
Correct.
So she'll resign her seat probably in November.
November or I think
December.
I would think she'd get sworn in early December.
December.
If she wins the seat.
Okay, so she'll have a couple more meetings. By end of the year, she would resign.
Right.
That creates a vacancy.
Correct.
So does the city call a special election, or do they appoint somebody? Do you know?
It's a combination on there, depending on the amount of the time on there. The charter is very clear. The city shall appoint, shall have a special election on there if it's less than 2 years.
Okay.
If it's more than, if it's more than
More
2
than 2
years.
years.
So that's going to be really close, how
Right.
much time she has left, because she would have almost 2 years
Right.
on there before the election. So that might be up to the council to decide, depending on when she resigned. Here's the interesting thing is, you're going to have a new council person in November, going to be sworn in early December, okay, for District 2.
Right.
Sean Ashton's old seat.
You're right.
So you have one, District 2, okay? You're going to have the ones that are there, and then you have Claudia Fermenta running for re-election
Right.
in District 4. So there's 2, and then you have Mario Trujillo is still in office. So you're going to have 3 there, okay? Though 3 for sure. Then you're going to have this opening, and here's the kicker. The recall of Catherine Alvarez, okay, that is going strong. They seem to have a lot of momentum. They seem to have all the signatures that they're getting. They were 35 short. So that looks like that will be on the ballot. That will be a special election. Whether it happens in December or it happens in January, depending on the timing.
Right.
And then her election will be a yes or no. But she might get the vote in December if the election is not there.
Right.
She might get the vote on filling that seat, whether to have an election. So there's a lot of moving parts.
There's so many moving parts, and so just to clarify, Downey could have 3 special elections. So it would be to fill Blanca's seat, a special election regarding Catherine Alvarez, whether she should be recalled.
Right.
If she is recalled, another special election to fill her
To
seat.
fill her seat, yes. Yeah, that very well could happen.
Right.
Although, I think because the way the charter reads about appointing somebody, Catherine Alvarez, is that because now the timing, it might be less than 2 years, so the council could appoint somebody. Although it seems unlikely with that amount of time, and it has to be somebody from District 3, and then it becomes a political thing.
Right.
And you already were gonna have a split council, because you're gonna have, the new person in D2, you're gonna have, Claudia Fermenta and Mario Trujillo, so it's gonna be hard to get consensus. It was kind of
Right.
weird how they did it now. But anyways,
It's
the fact is, you
Yeah.
could conceivably have, 3 new council people,
Oh, yeah.
which is going to make hiring a city manager, at least one of quality, a little bit tougher.
We
You're
could
gonna
have 4 new council members.
We could on there. Yeah, I think Claudia Fermetta is in
Right.
good shape because she's done a really good job for our
But I'm
city.
saying we could. We
Oh
could.
yeah, we technically could.
Yeah.
Is that crazy? What happened to the stability of good old
Yeah.
Downey? And then you're going to have a new city manager, a new assistant city manager, a new deputy city manager. You got a new city attorney. You're going to have a new, possibly a finance person. You have a new PIO. You got 7 or 8 positions that have
Right.
all left or so forth in the last couple months.
And it's going to be difficult to. I mean, it starts with the city manager, and you're not going to be able to recruit one until you have more stability on the city council.
Correct.
So we have the interim starting in a few weeks, July 1st. But you're not going to be able to fill that position on a permanent basis until
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
can't.
Yeah, it's so, there's a lot of stuff happening.
There
This
is.
is Downey. We're talking in June,
Yeah.
and we'll start wrapping up. The one thing that I think we've been conversationalists here
Mm-hmm.
and talking, giving our views, and I think the one thing that's important is go out and vote.
Yeah.
Make your difference, and also go out there and do the research on the people and their views. By the way, I have my sample ballot here, okay? The one thing that I shared with everybody on my social media was the research that I've done on the judges,
Right.
okay? When we complain that we don't know about the judges and so forth, do the research. There's one person, there's one that I laugh, okay? There's one on one of the judges here, number 156. It's against a current judge, Carol Eswick, and a gentleman by the name of Albert Robles.
Google him.
Google him. Albert Robles, he used to be the mayor of Carson on the Water Replenishment District. He got indicted, or people have, time out, I better be factual, he might sue me. There, the claim by the district attorney's office that he didn't live in Carson, he lived in an apartment building that he owns with his family, and yet he was sleeping in Carson, and this and that. So all these, he's been indicted on certain things. The point being, and then one of the judges says you can't have more than one seat at the same time because he was double dipping on there. The point is, with his record, Google it, that he thought he should be a judge. That's the point. Now, the good part is, and thank you, residents of LA County that voted on there, he lost big. It
lost
was,
big.
60-something to 30-something on there. So somebody did their homework, at least with his name ID. But all the rest of them on there were important to do. So, we have the sample ballot here, and all I'm saying is, whatever you do, make sure that you're prepared, make sure that you do that research. You're gonna get a lot of stuff in the next 6 months.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
long
I mean,
season.
we can rest. I think hopefully for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then in the fall, it's going to ramp up again. It's going to be a long couple of months.
Yes, yeah. So, and Eric, so we got some fun shows coming up. After this one, we're going to have one with the Columbia Memorial Space Learning Center, and Ben Dickow, the executive director, and Nader Mohihan, that is their CEO of Financial Partner, also the chairman of the board. We have one with him about financial partners being our new sponsor and making sure that our community is informed. And I think that's what we're doing. We want to make sure that this isn't a political show, that this isn't a hit piece, that this isn't a positive piece, that we're talking about Downey.
Talking about Downey and everything that it encompasses, and we're hitting summertime, lots of events coming up, so it's going to be a fun couple months.
Yes. And the good part is we did our first remote location. We're going to do that. We now have some more remote equipment. We have our executive producer over there, Hans Fritz, and many of you know he likes to stay behind the camera, but he's over there. And we're getting ready to go on the show. If you have some thoughts for new shows, if you have the thoughts on things you like to hear, or we like hearing what your comments were about this, that I say too much and I speak wrongly, that Eric say something on there. What are your views about us, agreeing or disagreeing? So we have a good time. We have a lot of respect for each other. Watch and read the Downey Patriot. The Downey Patriot is our local paper, and if you're in Norwalk, the Norwalk Patriot. They give us so much information, so we have a trust feeling with them. And I know Jennifer Decay, the owner of it, and of course Eric is the editor for, how many years have you been there? 20 years?
20 years.
20 years, wow.
This is 2022. Downey Patriot is celebrating its 20th anniversary.
Yay! Well, congratulations.
We've never missed a week. Every single week.
Yay!
Every Friday, it's you get the Downey Patriot. 20 years.
That's awesome. And you know what? And for those of you that want to know, here's a secret, and Eric knows I do that. On Thursday afternoons at 4 o'clock, okay, you can go online in the new Patriot. Although it comes out Friday, we get it at our homes. It's online. Now, here's the trick, because I don't like the format sometimes when I can't get to the whole paper. So go down to archives on their website and go to archives, push 2022, and it'll give you the date of this week, and click on it, and you're seeing almost like a PDF format of what the whole paper is. So I kind of know that this story's on page 2, and then I go to listen to the editorial. Fun trick. Just wanted to give you a plug. That's just how I do it, Eric.
No,
So,
we do have our archives, and it's completely free.
Yeah. So, anyways, so thank you for joining us on there. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you sharing this information with others, and tell others to watch or listen. We're of course on. This is on YouTube. We're on all the where all the podcasts are, on Apple and Spotify, all your different wherever you get your podcasts. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. So this has been Talking Downey with Mario
And Eric.